You ever have a gut feeling that something isn't right? Not the kind you can explain. Not something obvious. Just a quiet little whisper in the back of your head that says, pay attention. That was me, watching my wife, Natalie, get ready for another girls' night out, trying to ignore the fact that she had been going on a lot of them lately. It started gradually. Once every couple of months turned into twice a month, then every weekend, then twice in 1 week. At first, I told myself I was overthinking it. She deserved to have fun, to see her friends, to unwind. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized she never used to go out this much. And it wasn't just the frequency. It was the way she acted whenever I questioned it. So that night, when she came downstairs, dolled up in a way that seemed excessive for a casual night with friends, I finally said something. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just told her I wasn't comfortable with how often she was going out. That maybe it was time we had a night together instead. Her reaction? Instant defensiveness. She scoffed, told me I was being controlling, that she had a right to have her own life, that it was just a normal girls' night and I was making something out of nothing. But something about the way she snapped at me so quickly, like she had the response ready to go, made my stomach turn. I could have pushed harder, insisted she stay home, but at that point, I already knew. If someone fights that hard to do something, it's not because they're innocent. She left anyway. A few hours later, I was still sitting on the couch, pretending to watch TV but really just staring at my phone, waiting. Then, at 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Natalie. Having fun. Don't worry about me. Love you. Attached was a selfie. Her at a bar, oversized sunglasses on, a drink in her hand, smiling like she had no care in the world. It was the kind of picture meant to reassure me, to prove she was exactly where she said she was, doing exactly what she claimed she was doing. Except she made one mistake. Because in the reflection of her sunglasses, I saw it. A man's hand resting on her leg. Not just resting, gripping. And the worst part? There was a wedding ring on it. I stared at that image, my body completely still, my heart hammering in my chest. My first instinct was to tell myself I was seeing things, that it was a trick of the light or a weird angle. But the longer I looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't a girl's night. She was with another man. And now, I was about to find out exactly who he was. They say hindsight is 20/20ths, but I didn't need perfect vision to see what was staring me in the face. That selfie, the one she sent to reassure me, had done the exact opposite. It didn't just confirm what I already suspected. It shattered any last shred of doubt. But the truth is, I should have seen it coming. I did see it coming. I just didn't want to believe it. For months, things had been off. Not in some dramatic, screaming match kind of way. No, cheaters are smarter than that. It was subtle. A slow, creeping shift that only looked obvious now that I had the full picture. The girls' nights out? Too frequent. Natalie used to be someone who liked staying home, who'd complain about getting dressed up for even the simplest dinner party. Then suddenly, she had new friends I had never met, women she barely mentioned before who were now, apparently, her closest circle. And these weren't just any friends. They were the type who lived for attention, the single and thriving kind. The ones who made fun of women in relationships, who rolled their eyes at the idea of staying home on a Friday night. Then came the clothing changes. It wasn't like she used to dress in sweatpants all the time, but there was a shift. Dresses that were too tight, skirts that were too short, necklines that plunged just a little too low. At first, I figured she was just trying to feel good about herself. Nothing wrong with that. But then, I started noticing something. She never dressed like that for me. She never put in that kind of effort when we went on dates. She never got that excited picking out an outfit when we went anywhere together. She wasn't dressing for me. She was dressing for someone else. And the biggest red flag? Her phone. Natalie had never been a secretive person. We used to be the kind of couple who'd scroll through each other's phones without thinking twice. No passcodes. No hiding. No secrecy. Then, one day, she set a password. No explanation, no reason. Just, everyone needs privacy, when I casually asked. Her phone became glued to her hand. She used to leave it charging on the counter when she showered. Now, it went with her. She started sleeping with it under her pillow. Notifications stopped lighting up her screen. Calls were answered in another room. And yet, through all of that, I still convinced myself I was imagining things. Until now. Because that selfie, that one stupid attempt to calm my suspicions, had done the exact opposite. And for the first time, I wasn't going to ignore the truth. I was done playing the fool. Natalie thought she could outsmart me. She thought she could keep me in the dark forever. She had no idea that her perfect little double life was about to collapse. I stared at that selfie, my grip tightening around my phone, my heart hammering in my chest. I had been patient. I had ignored the warning signs. I had let things slide for far too long, convincing myself that I was being paranoid, that she would never do this to me. But now I had proof. I wasn't going to sit around like some pathetic fool, waiting for her to come home with another lie ready to spill from her lips. No. If she wanted to play games, then she was about to find out exactly what happens when I stop playing along. I grabbed my keys, barely thinking, my body running on pure adrenaline and anger. Every second that passed was another second she thought she was getting away with it. Another second she was laughing, flirting, letting another man put his hands on her. I had given her everything, my love, my trust, my loyalty. And this was how she repaid me? With a pathetic attempt at deception, as if I was too blind to see the truth? Not tonight. Tonight, she was going to face the consequences. The drive was a blur. My mind wasn't on the road, wasn't on the streetlights flashing by. It was on her, on him. On the way she had probably been doing this for months while I sat at home like an idiot, thinking she was out with her friends. By the time I pulled up to the bar, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was calm. The kind of calm that comes when you know you have absolutely nothing left to lose. The parking lot was packed, music booming from inside, laughter spilling out onto the sidewalk. And there she was, sitting on the patio, her back turned to me, drink in hand, completely unaware that her night was about to turn into a disaster. I didn't hesitate. I stepped out of the car, walked straight toward her, and as soon as I was close enough, I spoke. And when she turned around, her face drained of color so fast it was almost satisfying. The game was over, and I was about to make sure she knew it. The moment Natalie turned around and saw me, her face went pale. It wasn't the face of an innocent person caught off guard. It was the face of someone whose web of lies had just snapped under its own weight. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. "Go ahead," I said, my voice cutting through the noise of the bar. "Tell me another lie. Tell me you're here with the girls. Tell me you don't know that man sitting right next to you, the one whose hand was just on your leg." She tried to smile, tried to act normal, but I saw the tremor in her hands as she put her drink down. "Why are you here?" she asked, like I was the one acting crazy, like I had just ruined her night instead of catching her red-handed. And then, he spoke. I turned my head, slowly, locking eyes with him, the same hand in her sunglasses reflection guy, and I felt a deep, simmering rage settle into my bones. He was smug, sitting back in his chair, watching, probably thinking this was just another messy relationship fight that he could walk away from. "Buddy, I think you need to calm down," he said, reaching for his beer like this wasn't his problem. And that was it. I didn't think, I acted. I grabbed his drink and threw it across the table. Glass shattered, liquid spilled everywhere, and the entire patio went silent. People turned, eyes locking onto us, realizing they were about to witness something they wouldn't forget anytime soon. "Calm down?" I repeated, my voice dangerously low. "Calm down while you're sitting here with my wife? While you've got your hands all over her like I don't exist?" He stood up fast, chair scraping against the pavement, finally realizing this wasn't going to be a clean getaway. He was taller than me, broader, probably thought he was intimidating. He wasn't. Natalie was already between us, hands on my chest, pushing me back, begging me to stop. She was talking, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was looking at him. "How long?" I asked, my eyes locked on his. "How long have you been sneaking around with my wife?" "Man, I don't know what she told you, but—" I lunged. Not to hit him. Not yet. I grabbed his collar and slammed him against the railing. Glasses rattled. Chairs scraped as people jumped back, startled. I could hear Natalie screaming my name, but it was just background noise now. Say that again, I said, my grip tightening. Say it again like you're not guilty. Say it again like I'm some idiot who doesn't see exactly what's happening here. His hands came up, half defensive, half trying to get me to let go. Hey man, this isn't necessary, he stammered. I didn't know she was married. I laughed. A cold, humorless laugh. You didn't know? I asked, tilting my head. Really? So you didn't notice the wedding ring on her finger? The one she took off before meeting you tonight? His lips pressed together. He had no answer. Natalie was crying now, begging. Stop. Please. Just let him go. I let go, but only so I could step back, turn to face her, and unleash everything I had been holding in. You disgust me, I said, my voice shaking with the weight of everything I had just realized. I have given you everything, and you throw it away for this? I threw my arm out toward him, not even looking at him anymore. For some loser who doesn't even respect you enough to own up to what he's doing? She was sobbing now, hands clutching her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no pain, just relief. Relief that I finally knew the truth. Relief that I was finally done. People were staring. Phones were out. Good. Let them see. Let the world watch Natalie's perfect life fall apart. You're going to regret this, I said, stepping back, shaking my head. You're going to regret every single choice that led you to this moment. And then I turned to her boyfriend. You? If I ever see you near her again, near my house, near anything connected to me, you will regret it. The way he swallowed, the way he stepped back, the way his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. He knew I wasn't joking. I didn't need to throw a punch. I didn't need to ruin his face to ruin his night. I had already won. And as I walked out of that bar, out of that nightmare of a marriage, into the fresh air of a life without lies, betrayal, or Natalie, I realized something. This wasn't the end for me. This was the beginning. And Natalie? She was the one who lost everything. I didn't go straight home. I couldn't. My heart was still hammering against my ribs, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that I could see the veins pulsing under my skin. The anger wasn't gone, not even close. It was simmering just beneath the surface, contained but ready to explode the moment I let my guard down. I pulled into a dark, empty parking lot, turned off the engine, and just sat there, breathing heavily, replaying everything in my head. Natalie's face when she saw me, the pure panic in her eyes, the way her voice had wavered, searching for a lie, scrambling for an excuse that she knew wouldn't work, the way that smug piece of garbage, her boyfriend, had smirked at me like I was just another clueless husband he could brush off, the way his face changed when I grabbed him. He thought he was tough, thought he was untouchable, until I made him realize he wasn't. But that wasn't enough. None of this was enough. I had spent months, maybe longer, living in a delusion, convincing myself that the woman I loved was still the woman I married, that the long nights, the secrecy, the defensiveness, the changed passwords, the constant girls' nights, all of it was just me being paranoid. I had brushed aside my instincts, ignored every warning sign, because I wanted to believe I had a good marriage. But I didn't. I had a joke of a marriage that had been nothing but a lie, a performance, a carefully crafted illusion that she had built while sneaking around behind my back. And now, I was done playing the fool. I pulled out my phone, my mind working faster than it ever had before. I wasn't just going to walk away from this quietly. I was going to make sure Natalie felt every ounce of betrayal, every consequence of her choices, in the worst possible way. The first thing I did was pull up our shared bank account. For years, I had been the responsible one. The one making sure bills were paid, the one making sure we had savings, the one making sure our future was secure. And now, Natalie wasn't going to see a single cent of it. With a few taps, I transferred every last dollar into my personal account. The money I had worked for, the money I had planned to use for us, for our future, she had lost the right to any of it the moment she chose to betray me. Then, I canceled her credit card, the one I had been paying for, the one she had probably used for dinners with him, hotel stays with him, gifts for him. She was going to wake up tomorrow and realize she had no access to the life she had been living so comfortably. Next, I called my lawyer. It was late, and I knew he wouldn't answer, but I didn't care. I left a message, calm, precise, with no emotion in my voice. I need to file for divorce immediately. No discussion. I have proof of infidelity. Call me first thing in the morning. There would be no counseling, no reconciliation, no meaningless conversations where she tried to explain herself. I was done. And then, I went nuclear. I pulled up my contacts, scrolling through names. Friends. Family. People who mattered. People who deserved to know the truth before she got the chance to spin it into some pathetic sob story where she played the victim. One by one, I sent a message. Hey, just a heads up in case you hear anything from Natalie. She's been cheating on me for months. I caught her tonight. The marriage is over. Just wanted you to know the truth before she starts lying to you. No emotion. No anger. Just the facts. Within minutes, my phone was exploding with responses. Shock, disbelief, rage. People who had known Natalie for years, people who thought they knew who she was, suddenly realizing that she had been fooling them just as much as she had been fooling me. Her best friend, the one she always swore would take her side no matter what, sent me a message that made me smirk. I had no idea. I swear I didn't. She told me it was just girls' nights. I can't believe this. Even her own mother called me, voice shaking with shame, telling me I raised her better than this. I don't know what to say. But the best part? That came when I got a call from her boss. Natalie worked in marketing, a field where public image mattered. And apparently, the scene I had caused at the bar had already made its way back to her office. Turns out, her company had a strict morality clause. Not illegal to cheat, of course, but when your job revolves around representing a brand, scandals tend to be bad for business. She wasn't fired. Not yet, but she was suspended pending an internal review. Her entire life? Crumbling. And me? I wasn't even close to finished. By the time I pulled into our driveway, Natalie was already there. Sitting in her car, still in the same outfit she had worn to the bar, her makeup smudged, her eyes red from crying. She had probably spent the entire drive back desperately trying to figure out how to fix this, how to twist the story, how to convince me to forgive her. But there was nothing left to fix. I stepped out of my car, moving toward the house, and as soon as she saw me, she jumped out, running toward me. Please, she sobbed, grabbing my arm. Just listen to me. I looked at her. I mean, really looked at her. The woman I had once loved, the woman I had planned to spend my life with, now a complete stranger standing in front of me, drowning in her own consequences. And I felt nothing. No pain. No love. No hate, just relief. Relief that this was over. Relief that I was finally free. And as I unlocked the door and stepped inside, leaving her standing there alone, begging, crying, desperate, I smiled. Because for the first time in months, maybe even years, I had already won. Natalie stood there, sobbing in the driveway, looking like a wreck, like she had just realized she had burned everything down and had no idea how to put out the flames. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I walked inside without saying a word, locked the door behind me, and let her cries fade into the night. She deserved this. Every tear, every ounce of regret, every second of desperation. It was all hers to carry now. Because the moment she chose to betray me, she chose this ending. I sat down, exhaled, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. No more doubts. No more second-guessing. No more being a fool for a woman who never deserved me. My phone was still blowing up with messages, people asking me if I was okay, if there was anything they could do. But I didn't need help. I had already taken care of everything. The next morning, I woke up to pure chaos. First, there was the knock on my door. Loud, frantic. I already knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. Natalie. Her makeup was smeared. Her hair was a mess. And she had the audacity to still be wearing the same dress from the night before. She looked at me like she expected me to hold her, to forgive her, to pretend like the last 24 hours hadn't happened. Please, she whispered, voice shaking. I messed up, but we can fix this. You love me. You don't just throw that away. I stared at her. She really thought love meant she could do whatever she wanted. That love meant she could stab me in the back, and I would just take it. That I would hear her excuses, wipe away her tears, and somehow, magically, things would go back to normal. But there was no normal anymore. Without a word, I reached into my pocket and pulled out an envelope. Divorce papers. Already signed. Her face crumbled. "You can take them with you," I said, voice calm. "Or I can have them served to you at work." She blinked, like she couldn't process what I had just said. "But she started, her voice breaking, and I cut her off. "There is no we." I shut the door in her face. That should have been the end of it. But cheaters? They don't like losing. The next few days were a spectacle. Natalie went into full damage control mode, trying to spin the story, trying to salvage what little reputation she had left. But the truth? It was already out. She had no way to twist it, no way to make herself look like the victim. She reached out to our friends. Most of them had already dropped her. She called her family. They already knew. And then, her job finally made their decision. She was fired. Not for cheating. That wasn't illegal. But the company had seen the mess, the public humiliation, the reputation damage, and decided that she was a liability. Now, she had no husband, no money, no friends, no career. And I was thriving. With the divorce moving fast, thanks to my lawyer and the mountain of proof I had, I took the final step. I sold the house. The home we had built together. It was just a reminder of a life that never actually existed. So I packed up, left the past behind, and moved into a brand new place. A fresh start. No ghosts. No lies. A few weeks later, I got one final message from Natalie. "I don't know how to live without you. I don't know what to do." I didn't respond. She had made her choice. And now, she had to live with it. As for me, I walked away with my dignity, my freedom, and my future still intact. And Natalie? She was nothing but a bad memory I no longer had to think about.